Okay, so in the process of photosynthesis, what is actually taking place? How do plants make food for themselves in that process? Has something to do with water. No, it doesn't quite evaporate.
Carbon dioxide and water are changed to oxygen and sugar.
Okay, yes, that's really what happens, but how does that happen? Because one of the things that we had talked about before is, okay, and chances are you have drawn this before, because we have this membrane here, okay, and okay, we've got carbon dioxide out here, and we've got some oxygen. But according to photosynthesis now, with the use of this enzyme, okay, so and it just showed kind of like a machine going in this direction, okay, it's reaching up with this deal that's got a fork, and I got it too close to the cell membrane there. Here's your Rubisco. Okay, and it's got this deal that they illustrated. Okay, so what is this grabbing in this fork? Is it grabbing oxygen that's diffusing or carbon dioxide? Okay, because plants will take in this, and we know that, and then gives off oxygen then as a byproduct. So as this is spinning, okay, it's supposed to grab this carbon dioxide, and the plant can make food for themselves in that manner. I guess I probably got a little ahead of myself. This is more so what takes place in the CAM cycle. But with photosynthesis, what is it about this molecule that takes place in photosynthesis that is so important?
Water.
Yeah, but what about the water? What's happening to that?
It's getting broken down.
That's exactly what it's doing, okay? So this gets broken down into these individual atoms, like this, and then this. So all this water, this is just symbolizing one molecule. You have all of these molecules of water, and they're being split. Eventually, these atoms will connect, and then that's where the oxygen comes from. It diffuses across the cell membrane. Oxygen is given off to the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide diffuses. Okay, so then when that water molecule is split, it's actually the hydrogen that drives the electron transport chain. And I believe we've talked about that. I don't know how far in this video that you had watched from last week. So this is approximately, I believe, where it was that we have left off. Okay, I think we're past this. Okay. Are we two pigments? Okay, we are two pigments. Are we here? Do we talk about overview of electron transport? We're not here? Okay.
We're at that, like, photosynthesis photosynthesis phase 1.
Phase 1.
You just passed it.
Photosynthesis. I'm looking for where it says phase. Next one. Okay, phase 1. Okay. Maybe everyone else is maybe a little past this, but we'll take a few more moments. Go ahead and finish writing that. Okay, so then as we move forward, okay, so the first compartment, as you can see, is these thylakoids. The second compartment is the stroma, okay? Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. This stroma is a type of opening that allows gases to come in and out of the plant, which makes sense because we just talked about that with that of what takes place in the CAM cycle. So is there any reason that you can think of when we're looking at all these leaves on these trees that typically they are all green? But why are we seeing different types of colors now? The tree or the leaves? Okay. So the chlorophyll inside the leaves is starting to break down. And then typically it's supposed to look green, but then now as that's breaking down, it turns different types of colors. Now, with the major type of pigments that are found in plants, we call them, as you can see, A and B, the idea behind that is plants will absorb the most energy if the color is green with that wavelength. That's just the way the man upstairs designed plants here on Earth. Just the idea, that's why plants are green, because that's the spectrum of color where they absorb the most light, which is important because it has to break those water molecules apart. Okay? Okay, so let's see, where does that put us? Calvin cycle. Okay. So as we were just talking about just now, in the thylakoids, okay, this water molecule is split. Now this is different. Rubisco has to deal with the CAM cycle, but in the light, you okay out there? But what happens is this water molecule gets split, oxygen's given off as a byproduct. This hydrogen then pushes these electrons in the electron transport chain, and we'll talk about why that's important a little later. So light is absorbed, in turn, water molecules are split. Okay? This will then release an electron into the system. Once you split those oxygen atoms, it releases that electron. The hydrogen ion is placed into the thylakoid space, and that hydrogen ion pushes this electron. That's why it's called the electron transport chain. Because eventually what's going to happen is, how do animals and plants get energy from the molecule ATP? And we drew it in a diagram for those who chose to do that. Why do we get energy from ATP? It's probably something you wrote down somewhere. It had 3 triangles to it. That's it right there. So when you have 2 triangles and one off by itself, you break that bond, what is given off? Energy is given off, okay? Because once we get to the end, there's an enzyme that's going to take that ADP and put another phosphate group on there to get ATP. So it's just a continual cycle to where plants will make energy for themselves because of what's taking place in photosynthesis and making ATP from ADP. Okay? So in this process, when this water is broken, here is the source of the hydrogen from water. Okay? Builds up inside the thylakoid membrane. Hydrogen can now diffuse because there's a concentration gradient across the membrane. This enzyme will convert ADP to ATP. Okay? So that is how plants get energy from photosynthesis. You have to have this process at the end of the electron transport chain. The ATP synthetase, okay, is going to convert this to this substance right here. It says an enzyme, it's called ATP synthetase. And we'll talk about that again, at least before the end of your evaluation. Ladies, is it 2:10 or 2:15 for volleyball? Okay, good. We got 5 minutes yet. All right, so phase 2. If we have phase 1, well then here is phase 2, the Calvin cycle. And that's the, we're talking about CAM, okay? Then here's your friend Rubisco that we just had up on the board. Excuse me. Okay, is at this point we will stop for today. tomorrow, I would say grab your books because we will probably do some reading in there. Tomorrow is a shortened class period due to early dismissal tomorrow. So don't be surprised in your afternoon session classes. They run approximately 30 minutes in length. So we are done for today. So you can gather your thoughts. You can certainly work on that paper. I haven't assigned a due date yet, but I would suggest that you probably get started on that because we have some vocab terms that are also due on Friday. And on Friday, we'll probably have a vocabulary evaluation then as well. So you have time to organize that. So that's all I have. We'll catch up to you next time.